Hi everyone, my name is Mike. I haven't been on for a long time, I know that. I have to apologize. I've had an awful lot on my plate. Those of you who know me know I'm a school teacher. The pandemic really knocked things out of whack. A lot of people thought, school teachers, they got it easy, school's closed. School wasn't closed. I was teaching remotely. Usually, I stand in front of a class and I work one-on-one with kids, hands-on. That's easy. The hard part, learning how to use technology to present some sort of a lesson that the kids can benefit from. And then I still have to do the grading and grade reporting and everything else. So there's a lot of work involved in that, and it's a lot tougher when you're not one-on-one with your kids. So while school was still in session, I was working not just in teaching, but also learning how to use some technology to make that work out. A lot's been going on since the last time I made a video. I finished a car for a friend of mine. I had it in my garage over a year, and I actually worked on it about 10 months before I got it finished. And the results came out pretty nice. I'll inset the photograph of the car as it looked when it left my shop. My buddy still has to finish putting it together, but at least the hard work's done. The paint and body work is finished, and the car is mechanically sound. It starts, runs, drives, and stops. Those are the things a car needs to do. So he's still got to put all the chrome on, he's got to put the glass in it, and he's got to finish the interior and install a new wiring harness so that everything else in the car works, not just the motor. I've also started working on my 57 Chevy station wagon. This has been an ongoing project for a long time. I worked on it when I first got it pretty hard, and life got in the way. I wound up building, I think it's 3 complete hot rods in the time frame that I've owned this car, plus restored an antique tractor from my father. So I haven't been doing nothing. I just haven't been doing anything on my Chevy. So I'm doing body work on that again, and I'm getting closer and closer to paint. I'll take a couple shots of that and put them in the video too. What we're actually working on today though, we're going to be working on restoring a vise that I came into recently. Back in the fall, I came into this little honey here. This is a Rock Island Manufacturing Company number 440. It's in pretty good shape. It's quite rusty. I don't see any broken pieces on it or any significant signs of abuse. It's not a monster vise, now obviously, because I can hold it like this, but it looks like it's in good shape. And the screw wants to turn, so I think I'm going to be able to take this apart. I'm going to clean it, do a restoration on it, and paint it, and then I'm going to put it to work at my house. I have a little workbench in the basement that is pretty handy to have when you need to do a little work at the house, rather than run everything over at the shop. So this is going to get restored, and that's what we're going to focus on in this video. Okay, we're going to get started taking this old girl apart. She is pretty rusty. She was either in the corner of a garage with a leaky roof or in the corner of a wet basement. And the screw wants to turn, but the slide is seized. So I'm going to try a little go-go juice in here and see if that won't get her to move. Let that soak in, and maybe we'll get it. Now I'm not going to try to force it all at once, just with the screw, because I do not want to break it. Now I'm putting light pressure on it, very light, and it's moving. Yep, it's moving all right. The screw's coming out. voila. And she is hard. And I'll bet money that was peened on there to keep the screw from coming out. We'll have to do something to repair that. Alright, so we can get this swivel base apart. There's not much to it here. Just a locking bolt and a crescent-shaped slot. Yeah, that looks like we got it all apart. Well, we got to get this degreased. Well, I have to apologize. Yesterday, I started to sandblast and didn't get very far into it, and the battery died on my camera. So I didn't stop working. I kept right on going, and I got everything cleaned up, masked off, and now it's painted. So today we're going to start off, we're going to take off the masking and start the reassembly. Before we can reassemble though, I do have a special piece that I have to make up. Okay, to get started on the lathe, I'm going to have to start changing some tooling over. My lathe is a 20-inch swing American Toolworks lathe from about 1903. The chucks are very large. This is a 12 or a 13-inch diameter 3-jaw chuck. Weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 100 pounds. When I was in my late 20s, I didn't mind lifting that up and putting it on the lathe. Today I kind of mind. And then I have the 4-jaw chuck, which is even larger in diameter and I think weighs even more, that I have to put on it. So it takes a little bit. I've built this big overhead crane here in my shop that swings on a column, and it is a serious back saver. So I'm going to use the crane and I'm going to change the chuck. Right there, I've got it resting on the saddle of the lathe, and I know I'm going to get comments that I should be using a block, a saddle block to protect the ways, just in case I drop the chuck. And you're absolutely right, I should be. I'm lazying out today. When I was teaching machine trades, I had a choke kid who did not use one, even for a little 6 or 8 inch diameter chuck that could be easily handled. I always wanted the kids to use the saddle block. But let's be honest, the difference between what professionals do and what we teach students to do in the shop is not always the same. When I teach wood shop, especially the first year kids, every operation the kids do on the table saw, I make them use the guarding. Later on, when they get a little bit more experience and they start to feel a little bit more comfortable, depending on the student and how much I can trust them, the guard is sometimes omitted. And later on, when young people become professional carpenters, professional cabinet makers, they learn that almost nobody ever uses the guard on the table saw. You can do the same thing with an inexpensive Harbor Freight engine crane. Anything to save the back. And if you notice, it didn't even break a sweat. And this wrench is super cool. It's a Vise and Call monkey wrench. And it is stamped, if I can find it now, with Pennsylvania Railroad. Off camera, I took a few minutes and I put the bar in, and I got it centered up good enough. I didn't do a dial indicator job, I just kind of did an eyeball it. I brought my tool up right beside it and compared it and switched it. And in just a couple of minutes I had it definitely centered enough to be a bolt. You know, it's one of those things that, yeah, if you're in within a few thousands, it's not a big deal. And let's be honest, doing stupid stuff like making bolts is not the same as making hubs and axles. It's not going to spin at high speed. It doesn't need to be balanced. So if it's out a few thousands, it's no big deal. I know I have to turn this down to 432 thousandths. I put a dead stop on the lathe so that I can stop the carriage against it, and I'm just going to take several passes off of this, whittle it down to 432 thousandths, at which time then I'll chamfer the end and cut a thread on it with a die. Well, we're back. I have to apologize. I ran out of video memory. I had no more room on my memory stick. This is my very first attempt making a YouTube video with this particular camera setup. I had a different camera setup and I was very used to it, but it vanished on me. I suspect somebody came along and liked it more than I did, and therefore they liberated me of it. Anyway, back at it. I've ordered a couple of much larger memory sticks to use in this camera. We got to take and do a little bit of work here to prevent the rust monster from returning. So I'm going to use a little bit of good old paste wax, and I'm going to wax all of the bare metal pieces. And you guys didn't get to see it until now, but that is the custom bolt that I made. And it fits in there pretty well. I've already tried it out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about that. It seems to fit very nicely. And I'm very excited because it's I think it's going to work better than the original one did. Now we got to put the screw back together. This is going to go in here. This is going to go right down here. what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld that. All right, I got it all set up here on my welding bench in the vise. And I'm going to put a tack in here and another tack in over here to replace the spots where it was peened in. Almost looks like it was done with a chisel. But I have a funny feeling, you know, mass production being what it was done with a press. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's buff up the wax faces that are going to be getting touched all the time. That is pretty doggone nice, if I do say so myself. It actually looks like somebody might want to own that. Cool. I didn't tell you guys before. I'm not complaining about the quality of the vise because, after all, I paid nothing for it. I picked this up off the curb last fall. Somebody was cleaning out the building, garage, basement, I'm not sure what, but they were cleaning out, and that, along with a lot of other stuff, wound up on the curb. I picked a few other things out of the pile, but that was something that I considered to be a real treasure. And although I'm busy working on my 57 Chevy, I just sprayed high build primer on it. I like to give it a couple days for the primer to get good and hard so that it doesn't shrink after I start sanding it. So I figured, let's do a little side project. So this vise restoration was a nice break from my 57 Chevy, and today is Sunday afternoon, tomorrow is Monday, and I'm going to come back over here bright and early Monday morning and get back to work sanding my Chevy, and I expect to be fresh on the job, as it were. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me as we restore this, and I hope I see you again real soon. Well, I wanted to take a moment and show you guys the vise in its new home.